Thank you very much. Thank you very much to give the lecture in the frame of Michele, who was an architect, a student. I spoke with Silvia, his mother, and I'm very proud to be here. You have to know also that father of David Palterer, who spoke a few seconds before me, few minutes, was an architect, and he was like my teacher. So, you know, generation after generation, we pay respect back to those who have been our teachers. So I see in David Palterer continuation of what I was studying. But my lecture is not so much about what you see, it's about what you don't see. So I came to the conclusion when speaking mostly to the students of architecture, but here we have another audience, that very little is spoken what make architecture, how you make architecture, what is behind these glossy photographs which we anyhow can see in the journals. So the question is, if I can, with my experience, if I can transmit something to other people, to students, whether my experience can be of any help to anybody else, to students maybe. And the question is, if I know something which can be transmitted. Certainly with my experience I know something. Whether it can be transmitted, that's another question, because we all live by our own experience, but we have always a kind of example in front of us. So I will be more trying to explain how to arrive to a point which we don't know where it is. Because in the process of design, you start with A, but you hope to arrive to Z, but you never know where is this destination. Where is this destination that we are looking for? Where we find what we are looking for, whether it's the beauty or functionality or whatever. And there is, as you know, there is no, this destination is not on any map. So if there is no destination indicated on any map, there is no public transport. If there is no public transport, we have to build our own vehicle, our own transport. And I will be speaking about it. Next. That's a project in, not far from Tel Aviv, Ramat Sharon, when I was asked to design a housing project in the center of the city. Next. I started with some sketches, which the round point, lower point is a commercial center. Next. Next. And then there was in Tel Aviv, because it's, I'm speaking about my work in Israel, there was an exhibition of city of Ferrara and its walls. And I thought that this citadel of Ferrara could help me to design my design and my project. You see, the city of Ferrara is now a citadel, but it's my commercial center, which starts to influence the other parts of the project. Next. And you see the development. I still don't know where I am heading, but I am trying. Next. And gradually became a kind of geometry of sunflower. So it came not directly because I wanted it to be a sunflower, but I borrowed the citadel of Ferrara, and something happened. Next. And you see all these drawings which I try by this, which I call the vehicle to arrive to somewhere. Next. 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 But one can say that these drawings are the evidence that I don't know what I am doing. Because if I will know what I am doing, I would not need to make those drawings. That's the perfect evidence that somebody does know what to do. But at least it has some form, some maybe beauty. Next. 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 And so on and so on. So gradually I know a little bit more about the project, about the destination. Next. 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 And where I knew already how to build this project, the city of Ramat Sharon told me, thank you, we are not interested in your project. So it took only 4 years to arrive to this point. But the question is if this is a lot lost time, or maybe this investment of 4 years of working on this project, maybe it's not completely lost time. Next. Next. And there comes a project which is letter C. Letter A is a project which I have done with Alfred Neumann and Eldar Sharon in the 60s. But then I am not speaking about this project, I am speaking about more recent project. C is a kind of spiral building which eventually was built. Next. It's in Ramat Gan in Israel, not Tel Aviv, not far. And the spiral was somehow in my mind already for some time. Next. Next. And here you see the building. So I would say that if not the work which I have done on the first project, it will be difficult to imagine that I could build this one. So, in my opinion, that was not totally a waste of time. Next, that's an apartment building which is, has only 8 apartments, 1 in every floor. So that's like detached. It's like a private house on every floor. Next. And the use of material is special for kind of arte povera. I was somehow supposed to make a project with Mario Merz, but we have been drinking too much vodka, so at the end nothing came out of it. But it was in Torino. He has make a beautiful igloo in Jerusalem Museum, and I was helping. But when I came to Torino, that was already too much of this liquid. Next. And those are some drawings which helped to build this project. Next. Yeah. Next. Next. All this were made during the working on the spiral and during the construction, because I was living opposite in the so-called Dubinin house, which was designed 20 years earlier. And so these drawings were really intended for the construction already. Next. 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 Yeah. And you see the progress of the images, how the building eventually developed. The development of the special building was also due to the fact that the construction was in the hand of somebody who didn't know how to make a straight angle. So by covering the corners of the building by stone, we camouflage this impossible kind of work. But eventually it came okay. Next. 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 These are the drawings of the apartment. The apartments are the same on every floor, but they are shifted. So there is a kind of rotation. Next. Next. That was the division between the concrete and plaster on the surface of the ceilings. Next. 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 Yeah, so eventually the normal logic of such a building would be every architect will know that you put in the middle the staircase and the elevator. That would be the most economical and the most rational solution. But I wanted to have in the middle a courtyard. So there was another way of solving it and another rationality. Now we arrange all the ramps and stairs under the mushrooming ceilings of the apartment, which gave this the shadow and the protection from the rain. So by evacuating this central core, we found another way of justifying this rationality of this building. Next. 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 And we use also some materials which we got for free, like broken mirrors. And this kind of stone is very cheap stone in Israel, hated by all the architects, because it has a connotation of cheapness, because many restaurants in Jaffa are covered instead of stucco by this stone. But I thought it's very eloquent, very expressive. Next. And the view of the terraces. Next. 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 Interiors. And the use of mirrors inserted into the concrete before the concrete was cast. And because the expansion of concrete and of glass is the same, so they are not broken, they are not falling down. Next. And that's another project which David Palteren mentioned. That's a school in Germany. And I would say that that's the next example of something that you still benefit from what you have done before. So here also this spiral movement is very important for the design of the school. But what is more important is the central open court, which was also in the spiral building, but also here. So the central space is for humans, not for materials. As we evacuated the stairs and the and the elevator in the spiral building, the same happens here. The open space is the entrance, and the buildings are enclosing on this space. Next. That's the geometry done before the computers. So it was done by hand. Next. Next. And again, some sketches which for me are the way of transport to the unknown destination, which I mentioned before. Next. 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 And as I said before, it's not modesty that I am saying, but it's really an evidence that somebody who is doing it doesn't know where he is heading. He maybe had some more or less direction, but every one of these drawings is a hope that it will be bringing me closer to something which I believe I should arrive. Next. I was so desperate that I introduced even a snake into the design. Next. Sometimes it's necessary to bring something which doesn't fit into the design, and eventually it breaks, and sometimes it brings a new element. So this element of the snake make a lot of good for the design, because it brought all the pieces together, and the children like very much running through these corridors. Next. 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 And that's the entrance. So eventually you don't see any snakes, any sunflowers, and eventually people said that it's like a small city for children. So it's not really a sunflower, but I would say rather a small city. Next. Yeah, next. And we used very simple materials, stucco, bitumen cladding, metals, corrugated metals. And that's the place where children already run into an open space, but they are always surrounded by the building. Here they are outside. Next. That's another project where there was a very short design process, because we have found an ingredient, a stone in the basement when digging for the basement, which make all this process much shorter. That's a museum of Palmach. Palmach was a military unit fighting for independence of Israel against English mandate, and eventually they became a kind of legend. And building for the legend is a certain difficulty, because it's not a real client, it's a legend. Next. So digging for the basement, we had to preserve the trees. In order to preserve the trees, one has to preserve the soil of the trees. So that's the way we preserve the soil of the trees, by surrounding it by kind of nails, concrete nails, and then we took out the soil surrounding these nails, and we discover in this process a kind of very fragile stone. Next. Very fragile stone. You see this stone, and we try to use it. Next. And you see that now the stone is used on the elevation. And the building, the Palmach also claimed that they come back to the soil of Israel, that they are the natural extension of the Jewish settlement in the old times. So the very fact that the stone is also from the same soil means for the people of Palmach and the next generation a kind of link to the country. And they identified themselves very closely with this building. Next. That doesn't mean that they slowly destroy it also by making all kinds of projections. And next. And there is a slope of the street, there is a slope of the terrain. Actually, we have done nothing special. We have surrounded the trees. And you see the trees growing already part of the architecture. So the whole building is cut around the trees. This courtyard is taking care of the trees, and the slopes of the side and slope of the street make also the slope of the building. Next. And that's the project which we are still concerned with. We are building in Schiphol Airport in Netherlands. My first project, one of my first projects in Israel was a military academy. It was the result of winning a competition, but I haven't shown it. But this is something very special again. This is a complex for the special police, the Royal Dutch Police of Netherlands. And there was a competition which lasted, I think, 5 minutes. Every candidate for this competition had to say something. And I say something in this 5 minutes, and that was enough. I don't remember what I said, but probably it impressed the jury. So we started to work next. That's a program, that's a site which is like 300 meters long. One side over, on the top there is a highway entering to the airport, and those are offices, dormitories, restaurant, school, sport, everything is there. Next. There was in my mind, it was also a kind that it should be a kind of citadel or kind of medieval city. Military, those are drawings of Michelangelo, but it came a little bit different. Next. Next. So here I started to understand the site and what could be done. The center is always the open field. So again, to make buildings in such a way that people are protected by the buildings. So not only to enter the building, but also that the building will make an outside space which is a kind of extension of the interior. Next. 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 And again, you see that I tried to use the drawing as a kind of vehicle to arrive at certain destination, which is not clear where. The drawings themselves show that it's not clear where it is. Next. But eventually, the plan is very simple. On the right, there are offices. On the left are dormitories. The green part above is a school. Yellow in the center is dining hall and some spaces for cars and so on. So actually it's like a small city with a wall, but with one difference. The wall is actually the city, because there is not very much except the wall. But everything is concentrated around the open space, and the restaurant is a kind of, I would say, a living room that is facing the open space, and people who can sit on the terrace and looking at the spot. Can you come back to the, yeah. So there is, in the middle, bottom, there is an entrance. There is, like I said, the offices, which is like your study. On the left, bedrooms, but there are dormitories. I would try to explain it as a kind of small house, but it's a big project. In the center is a living room with a dining room, which is overlooking the garden, and then you have your gym and so on. So even if it's a big project, it still has a kind of logic of something which one can understand. Next. Yeah, those are the images. Next. And here, Colonel Brandenburg, he's not in his very beautiful military outfit, but he was my boss, and I am explaining him the project. Next. And he listens, and then he shakes his head and this cost me like 3 years of stopping the project. The project was stopped because he couldn't believe that it could be built in the budget that we have. So his hand on this was very expensive. It was like more than 2 years of waiting until we get more funds for the project, but eventually it's under construction. Next. And that's the project now under construction. Yeah. And that's all. No? Thank you very much.